how to get your shit together. How do you fix your life in a sense where if you're directionless, how do you go from feeling directionless, like you have no purpose, like you wake up and you kind of just hate what you do, to feeling a sense of fulfillment and like you're serving a greater purpose, like you truly enjoy your life and you've got your shit together? I mean, first off, why should you listen to me, and why am I guess you can qualify me to say that I've got my shit together. Number one, so you can see this is what I like to call my legacy. I've kind of been on all sides of the spectrum. I was obese. I was then a degenerate. I then started doing boxing. I then became a copywriter in Hustlers University. And then I went all in on SMMA. And then I DM'd Thomas Gonnet and told him that I was going to make 10K a month. And then I ended up meeting him in person. And then I got offered a 100K a year sales job by Charlie Morgan. And then I went all in on SMMA. And then I went all in again, even harder. And then I met a couple of the people that I used to idolize around. I went to masterminds. I've been to Miami, to London to meet people like Charlie Morgan, Thomas Gonnet, Joel Kaplan, Sergio, all of these types of people, Matt Shields, Josh Rivera. I've met a bunch of these different gurus that you've probably seen on the internet. And not only that, but I actually became good friends with them. So that's kind of why you should listen to me. And if you haven't also seen this video, I made $500,000 before I was 18. And I did all that through getting my shit together. And before you start to rationalize in your mind that, okay, cool, but you probably just have some gift or it was all luck, right? Not really. Apart from the fact that I have a natural ability to communicate, I started from complete scratch as a high school dropout by myself. I dropped out of high school literally knowing nothing. I wasn't naturally intelligent. Nobody in my family or anybody that I know in person owns a successful business. I knew nobody within a 50-mile radius of my hometown doing the same thing. I live in the middle of nowhere in the UK where nobody understands how to make money online. The only computer experience I had was playing Fortnite for 12 hours a day. And by the way, if you think this was a case of me wanting to get revenge because I didn't have any friends and I literally had no time, for the people out there, I was invited to all the parties every weekend. 2 times a week, I was there because I felt like this fear of missing out and I wanted to go there because it gave me a sense of purpose, right? I wasn't the kid who didn't get invited anywhere and felt a need for revenge. I got invited to all of these parties. So before you start to rationalize all of these things in your mind, there probably isn't a difference between me and you. And if there is, it's probably very distinct and it's not going to make a difference, right? My only advantage across the board as to the reason that I'm here now in a better position than where I was 12 months ago is I hated who I was and what my life had come to. And the pain of staying the same exceeded the pain of pushing forward and going all in. And if you don't know what I mean by that is, there's a graph here just to explain that. Now, everybody as humans has an action threshold, right? For example, if you have somebody that is overweight right now and they continue to eat bad food, they have a threshold that they will get to and they'll go, enough is enough. And that is when the current and the future pain of doing nothing and staying in the same situation exceeds the pain of the time and the money investment involved in them taking action and becoming somebody that they aren't now. Further exceeds the money, the pain of the pain of the time and the money and the risk investment into doing something that they haven't done before, which is eating healthy, staying consistent, and going all in on becoming a better person, right? So first off, I want you to know that if you feel like you're in a situation where you're comfortable right now and you don't want to take action and you're stuck in this feeling of procrastination where you might be going to high school, you might be in a job that you don't like, you might be in an apprenticeship that you absolutely hate. By the way, I had an apprenticeship and I turned it down and it's the best thing I ever did. And that's probably because your situation now isn't painful enough. Maybe you just need to go deeper into the rabbit hole, right? And what I mean by that is if you're overweight right now and your goal is to lose weight, but you can't trigger that action threshold and you keep falling back into the same habits, maybe you just need to get bigger. Maybe you haven't triggered your action threshold to the point where the pain of you now is far greater than the pain of you going through the pain of taking action and giving up your bad habits. And just for context, I've had to go through this stage. I've had to go through this transition 4 different times to become who I am now. And this is just the start. I'm sure this is going to happen 30, 40, 50, probably over 100 times within my lifetime where I've got to have what I like to call an identity paradox, where I look at my current self and I say, I am unhappy with the person that I am now. And in order to get to the next level, I need to do things that I haven't already done. And it's fair to say I've been on every side of the spectrum. I've been obese, I've been extremely skinny, I've been a degenerate, I've been a wantrepreneur who sits and looks at all of these people and wishes I could do it. And now is where I would class myself as an entrepreneur. And this all boils down, not necessarily to the huge incremental changes within my lifestyle and who I was, but it was those small 1% improvements day in and day out. And people mistake this for never giving into bad habits and becoming a monk in a month, right? When in reality, there's always going to be slip-ups. There's always going to be regret. There's always going to be bad choices. I still make them now where I tell myself I'm going to do something and maybe I'll break that promise. But simply just being aware of those things is the first step to getting your shit together. Because what you are not aware of, you can't control. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. And it's 100% true. Because before you're aware of how things such as drinking alcohol, vaping, smoking, bad habits, surrounding yourself with bad people affects your life, it will control your life and you will call it fate because you are not aware of how it is affecting you, right? And this was the best thing that happened to me, truly just becoming aware of how bad these things were. And now it's like, for example, I went out on New Year and I woke up on New Year's Day and I truly felt a feeling of disgust in myself. Like I'd gone against who I was as a person for going out and drinking, right? And that's the start of it. You know, you don't need to feel that huge sense of regret because I know I definitely didn't. And for the longest time last year, I was still going out and drinking alcohol and doing these bad habits while trying to build my business, right? But the only time that it excelled and it got to the next level was when I cut those things off. And honestly, that's when I became the most fulfilled and the most happy with myself. So how did I and how can you actually get your shit together? Because you might look at me and go, because I've seen the comments on a couple of my videos and see, this is the most dialed in teenager that I've ever seen. He's etc., etc. But there's no difference to me than you. We've already discussed the fact that my upbringing and the things that I was surrounded with was no different. I'm not in a wealthy family. I'm in a pretty average family in terms of wealth, and everybody has a 9-to-5, right? This isn't normal for my family. The first thing I did to get out of the situation that I was in was really just start lifting weights and going to the gym. And it sounds basic and everybody says it, but there's a reason why. Because right now, the chances are you do not trust yourself. If you were to say something to yourself, such as, could you literally look at yourself in the mirror and go, I will make $10,000 a month in the next 6 months. And like 100% certainly believe that what you said will come true. Like probably not. Like you probably can't say that because you don't have a stack of self-proof behind yourself to show that you can do that. And it all starts with building the self-confidence to believe in your own word. Like this is something that's so, like, I don't really see a lot of people talking about this. They talk about the strategy and the systems to get to 10K a month, but the biggest thing is just believing in what you say because it's going to be difficult and it's going to be hard. And the more you work on this with small incremental promises, the more you start to realize how bad your relationship with yourself really was. Like if you tell yourself you're not going to do something, just don't do it. And you're going to slip up and that's okay, but you've just got to come to terms with the fact that your goal to becoming a new you and getting your shit together is really just keeping your word. Like, it's like, for example, if you have a friend and you tell them that you're going to be at the gym at 9 a.m. and you get to the gym, your friend gets to the gym at 9 a.m. and you're not there. They start to lose trust in you, whether you like it or not, because you can't keep a promise to yourself. Because you can't keep a promise to them, right? And they slowly, over a long period of time, those micro promises that you break compound into a macro result of them not trusting you. And it's the same thing within yourself. Because if you tell yourself you're going to wake up at a certain time and you sleep in, and you do that 100 times, every time you tell yourself something, internally you're just going to be thinking, this isn't going to happen. I'm full of shit. That's what you're going to be thinking because you don't trust your own word. So just start with the small things because it's like you having to rebuild a relationship with yourself. You want to see just you as if you were in a relationship because within a relationship, you've got to build trust, right? And the same applies with you. You have to build trust within yourself. And in order to do that, you just keep the small incremental promises. It's the exact same with a friend, with a relationship, The way that you build trust within those things is by simply saying you're going to do something and sticking with it, right? So it's the same thing. Start with the small things. Go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week. Tell yourself you're going to make your bed and actually do it. Be mindful of what you eat, because self-awareness is the first step to change. And a huge one for me was when I started boxing, because there's nowhere to hide. And it truly just scared the shit out of me to start. There's no better feeling in telling yourself you're going to give your all, going all in a spar. There's nobody to defend you, and sticking to your word. I cannot tell you the amount of times when I used to go boxing, I knew Wednesday was sparring day, right? This was the first thing that I went into in the self-improvement side to start building self-confidence. Wednesday would roll around, my boxing session would be at like 6:30, and in my mind, the excuses would start to run through. Oh, today you're really busy, maybe you should take a day off. And each time I would give in to that, it would make me lose a small piece of self-respect for myself. And then again, and again, and again, and again. And the self-respect for myself just went down and down and down and down and down. And the same applies on the other side of the spectrum. Each time that I heard that, the bitch voice in my mind telling me that, oh no, but today you're really busy and you feel ill and you've got a cold, but you need to finish this game. And each time you give in to those things, it will make the reputation with yourself worse. And the same applies on the other side of the spectrum, as I mentioned. So if you see and analyze and become aware of your bitch voice and the fact that it just wants to keep you comfortable, and you still do it anyway, you will build ultimate self-confidence. And that is how you get your shit together. You just simply do that on a macro scale, right? Because so many people have this wrong understanding of things like confidence, discipline, to be hardworking, right? I want you to rewire your understanding. Because most people see these things as character traits that are out of our control, right? You might look at somebody like a model who's extremely confident and you go, oh, he's just confident because he's naturally good looking. I don't have that. That look wasn't on my side. That may be an example that you would think about someone who is attractive and why they're confident. Now, the reality is, while this can be true in some cases, confidence a lot of the time isn't something natural. It's something that compounds through micro action on a macro scale. And a result of those micro actions compounding, people begin to put new labels on you. And that label then becomes a part of your identity, and you start to associate yourself with that label. So if you can control the action that creates your character traits, and I'll give you an example of this, right? Somebody might label me, and I would label myself personally as disciplined, right? But what even is discipline? Like, what does it mean to be disciplined? And it's just a number of micro actions that I can control on a macro scale, and somebody labeling me as that, seeing all of the micro action on a macro scale, right? It's me going to the gym and then going to the gym and then going to the gym and then going to the gym. It's like me seeing somebody at the gym every single day for a year and me going 6 days a week every single week. They're going to start to see me as disciplined. Another example, me eating clean, me going out for a meal with friends and saying, no, I don't want to eat that, and actually sticking to my word, okay? Eating clean food every single time that I go out for a meal with friends and family for a year. They would then start to associate me with discipline. They would see me as disciplined, right? I get this all the time. You're so disciplined, Cam. Yeah, I know. And it's not. And the thing is, they see it as something that comes natural when in reality it's not. It's something that you build through micro action on a macro scale. And you just get more disciplined because then you start to associate yourself with the discipline, and the discipline becomes easy, right? What I mean by that is, now my ability to go and get the things done that I know I don't want to do is a lot easier because my identity is associated with being disciplined. But until that point, nobody believes you're disciplined, and a lot of the time they put the opposite label on you. Like, I used to be called lazy, fat, all of these things that are the complete paradox, the complete opposite to discipline. So I simply had to reinvent and rewire my understanding of these traits that I wanted to have, right? Because to be disciplined is just the micro things, the small incremental, you saying no to going out. You do that for 2 years, people are going to call you disciplined. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? And that's it. It's just a bucket of small micro actions that then compound once the bucket is full into people labeling you with the identity trait that is associated with those micro actions on a macro scale. That is it. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just do the things that act in alignment with that trait, and you will start to possess that trait because people will start to label you with it. So if we break this down, if you can control the action that creates your character traits, such as you can become confident, you can become disciplined, you can become hardworking, just by following through with the action that aligns with that trait. And if we break down what is an identity is a collection of character traits, really, right? This is proof to show you can literally become whoever you want. If you just rewire your understanding and do not see something like discipline as something that is natural to somebody, it is something that compounds over time on a micro scale through their action. Because somebody looking at me, for example, and saying, Cameron's got his shit together, do not understand as much as I do that is just a byproduct of me doing the micro action on a macro scale. And what that micro action looked like in my life was going to the gym 6 times a week for the last 2 years, right? Saying no to the nights out and to the parties every time, almost every time. I'm not saying no to the nights out and the parties 99% of the time. And by the way, I'm not saying I don't slip up. Of course I slip up. I've slipped up so many times, but it's being aware of those slip-ups and working on how to improve that and eliminate that. Working from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day and being obsessed with making it work, even when I didn't make a penny for the first 5 months. Boxing 1 to 2 times a week and being the hardest worker in the room. Controlling my impulse to eat shitty foods. Facing rejection and going on sales calls. All of these things, which by all means were not perfect, compounded into me being labelled as disciplined. And it's allowed me to tie that label into my identity, therefore seeing myself as disciplined. And not only that, I now know everything I tell myself will come into fruition. I know, and I truly know it. Like I can't explain it because it is a sense of ego, but I know I will make $1 million a month within the next 1 to 2 years. I don't want to set a certain time frame on it, but I just don't know how. I just know it will happen because I now have that self-confidence and that self-belief within myself, because everything that I do, because everything that I say, I follow through with. That's really it. And I've been doing that over the last 12 months, and I've been rebuilding the relationship with myself. And as a byproduct of that, 90% of the things that I say I will do, I will do. I hope that helps. Kind of went a little bit deep on how you get your shit together there, but it really is just following through with the micro action that you know you need to do.